Greetings. Let me confess up front that I think the subject of this video is rather infantile. I would prefer to not make a video like this, but because I see a certain claim popping up multiple times, I figured I might as well make a quick video to address it. You see, our friends over at the We Woke Now and Boom Church Atlanta accounts have been explicitly accusing me of moving the goalposts in the discussion about the Pews. They claim that the challenge to show Hebrew on a pew was originally to find just a single word, and then they claim, after they found a single word, allegedly, that I changed it to demanding that they find a coherent sentence instead. For example, consider a couple clips, both from a video on the We Woke Now account titled Late Night Playbook, Crafty Counsel 2, End of Discussion. The video is from December 12th of 2020, and keep the dates of the different clips in mind as the time frames are going to be relevant. So this first clip is from the 22-minute, 46-second mark. Listen to this.
Exactly. And if you notice, they always try to move the goalposts. Before, Abu was trying to say he has, pretty much he has the strongest claim for Arabic being on the pews. He said, hey, can you formulate a word? Then it went to a sentence. Then it went to show me. It's like, hey, we don't have to show you anything. We got the proof.
Okay, now listen to that assertion get repeated again later in the same show. This next clip coming from the 1 hour, 8 minute, 57-second mark. And as you listen to the second clip, note in particular how it is insinuated that the challenge is unfair if there's no sentence on the pew.
It's petty at this point because they're not going to take their videos down. They're not going to apologize. They're not going to say they just moved the goalpost. But now you can't just use one word. Now you got to use a whole sentence. How can you use a whole sentence or something if a sentence is not there? If you see...
Having seen those statements from last December 12th, now let's go back to what was said in the infamous Boom Church panel discussion, which took place the previous month on November 22nd, 2020. So this is from the Boom Church Atlanta account, specifically a video titled, quote, The Pews Discussion, Moreh Brown, Minister Dante, Sista E, Minister Yakoba, Pastor Kelly, and Benayah Israel, end quote. And I'm going to pick up at the 1 hour, 53-minute, 51-second mark. Note how back then the host was claiming that there was a sentence on a pew, a sentence. Note how the host even gives an alleged translation of that supposed sentence. And note in particular how he explicitly acknowledges that the challenge was to find a coherent sentence. Here, listen to this.
Pews. So not only does it say take a grasp of God, but it says take a grasp of Yah or God, Israel, with a bass voice, as you put it, or with a loud voice, meaning praise him loudly. That's what this means. So Abu asked, can we find a coherent sentence? Well, yeah, we just did. And not only that, we got a scholar to back it. So we know what that...
On an additional note, let's turn to Vocab Malone's video from January 1st, 2021, titled No Hebrew on the Pew, The Definitive Dismantling. I was looking in the comment section of that video, and I noticed a comment directed at me, which read as follows, quote, funny how after a Hebrew word was found on the pew, the argument is now changed to a coherent sentence, end quote. Ironically, in the very video that person was commenting on, at the 16-minute, 8-second mark, you can hear that same clip of the host of the Boom Church panel discussion from back on November 22nd, acknowledging that the challenge was actually to find a coherent sentence. Here, I'll play it again, just for humor's sake, this time from Vocab's video.
So Abu asked, can we find a coherent sentence? Well, yeah, we just did. And not only that, we got a scholar to back it.
To drive this point home, I'll play a couple of clips from my own first video on the subject. This video is from October 4th, 2019. Not 2020, 2019. On your screen is a portion where I was showing how Manhattan's primary area code, 212, written in a certain handwriting, can look like a Hebrew word. It can look like the name David or the word Dod, which can mean uncle or beloved. And how a sloppy percent sign, you see that down at in the red on the bottom right, a sloppy percent sign or the beginnings of a cartoon face might look like a Hebrew word as well. For example, that can look like the Hebrew word sus, which means horse. So the point of those illustrations was that going just by a single alleged word can produce false positives. But listen to this portion from the 13-minute 5-second mark where I explicitly mention sentences. Rather, you would need something more than similarities to characters. You would need actual strings of characters giving rise to words, phrases, sentences. That's how you demonstrate the presence of a particular language. And here's another portion from the 26-minute 10-second mark. To listen to this. For those who are asserting that either Hebrew or Aramaic or Arabic is present, they should be able to demonstrate this. Demonstrating the presence of a language is not an esoteric art, or unless it shouldn't be, unless someone's going to argue that this is written in some sort of cryptic code. But if the argument is that this is discernible, obvious examples of Hebrew writing or Aramaic writing or Arabic writing, then it should be demonstrable. One should be able to point out the actual words, the actual sentences that are there. But if they can't do so, it begs the question, on what grounds are you asserting that Hebrew or Aramaic or Arabic is present? And you can't just say, well, I heard that somebody else said so, or I read on the website that someone else said so. Or at the very least, you can't expect others to take it on faith simply because you heard it from somebody else or read that someone else made the claim. Before closing, I want to share that the word which comes to mind for me at this point is projection. Our friends raising this accusation were actually taking something true of themselves and trying to project it onto me. They were the ones who tried to move the goalposts. Last November, they were clearly aware and openly acknowledging that the challenge was to find a coherent sentence. They even gave an alleged translation of a coherent sentence that they supposedly found on a pew. However, after it was shown that they were bluffing and that the relevant sentence didn't exist, they tried to switch gears, and they tried to change the nature of the challenge from finding a coherent sentence to finding a coherent word. Now, we should all ask ourselves, what might be motivating that switch? I have to confess, I cannot help but wonder if it might reflect a tacit acknowledgement on their part that they can't find any coherent phrases or sentences on the pews. But, of course, time will tell. We'll see. Oh, and by the way, if anyone's interested in why one should be trying to show a coherent phrase, or coherent sentences rather than merely an individual word, they are invited to consult my recent video on the subject titled Pew Methodology, Why Phrases and Not Words, which discusses the matter in detail. And I'll share a link in the video description. I'll actually share links to every video I took clips from in the video description. On that note, I'll close here. And as always, I look forward to the comments of others. God bless.